This video was inspired by a post on Reddit asking the community about the end game of Guild Wars 2 and what it looks like after 1,000 hours played. And while most of my cynical takes admittedly come from a man who has completed this game, I wanted to take some time to give you all the roadmap of what the end game of Guild Wars 2 actually looks like. I read almost every single comment on all of my videos, and I get a large range of players with different playtimes or histories with the game. Some of them take breaks and so on. And hopefully for all the newcomers, you can look at these items and pick out some of them that work for your playstyle. Like most of my videos, I will include a disclaimer. This is not a maximize your daily routine video. I've done videos talking about gold per hour and min-maxing your time, or so be it. I will be mentioning some things that I recommend doing at the end game or how I go about structuring my playtime, but this is absolutely not a farming guide. This is a enjoy the game and have fun guide video. So without further ado, smash the like and subscribe button and we will get into it. So if you are talking about the end game, you are likely level 80, you have some kind of specialization unlocked, and you have more or less the entire game opened up to you. It is likely you've played through and completed a few campaigns, but the order of operations kind of goes as follows. You get level 80, you unlock specializations and proper gear. And by proper gear, I mean gear that makes sense, not just the random stuff the game gives you while leveling. You've probably unlocked the standard mounts, excluding, the Sky Scale, the Roller Beetle, and the Griffin. So if you're at this point or around this point, you are at the end game. So what do you do? Well, looking at Guild Wars 2, I found it easier to look at my play sessions by week instead of by day. There really is no FOMO for most content if you cannot log in daily. So if you're only going to devote a couple hours per week to this game, you can absolutely progress the end game in Guild Wars 2. First things first, the Wizard's Vault. I give a lot of shit to the Wizard's Vault, but you should absolutely be completing the weekly in the Wizard's Vault. It takes anywhere from about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on your style and which objectives you choose. You can make sure it is fully PvE, and that will give you some more control over kind of what objectives get given to you. But the Wizard's Vault will be your source of gold, ascended gear, and laurels, mystic coins, clovers, all of that. It is overall just the best value for time in the end game. The Wizard's Vault makes it so you don't really need to grind content daily to make progress. So devote some of your gaming budget to the Wizard's Vault, at least for the weekly. The rest of the game is broken up into two categories. You have solo activities and you have group activities. For solo activities, these are like your personal achievements. In the achievements panel, there are a ton of things to do. And at the end game, 1,000 plus hours, I highly recommend diving into the achievements panel and start picking objectives to complete, be it story sections that you haven't done yet or map objectives. Almost every piece of content in the expansions and living world has both a story chapter full of achievements alongside a map set of achievements that have exclusive rewards associated with them. They do a good job of taking you to many of the nooks and crannies of the maps and often force you into some easier to miss events. If you are a primarily solo player, check out the story achievements, replay the story chapters, and do the map achievements, in addition to trying to complete the map masteries for your favorite maps is also a good place to start. Getting those mastery levels is an easy way to progress, like in terms of a number on your character and on your account. So if you are not max mastery or you still have masteries outstanding, focusing on that is a good way to engage with the end game. Another big solo activity is working on the harder to get mounts. The Griffin comes with Path of Fire and has a collection associated with it. The Sky Scale has a similar collection in both the Living World Season 4 and Secrets of the Obscure if you own that content. So getting those alongside the Roller Beetle is a good place to start on a solo activity that actually gets you a new gameplay element. But at the end game, those two mounts are a top priority, the Griffin and the Sky Scale. Another big solo achievement that many players do not directly dive into is crafting legendary items. Now, legendary items, they require a lot of different content. All of them require some degree of map completion, which will require you to explore, and they all require endgame materials, which the Wizard's Vault will provide. Typically, in addition to that, they do require some unique currency. For Generation 1, this unique currency is dungeon related. This will take you into the most entry level group content that Guild Wars 2 has to offer. You only need to complete a few different dungeon paths to get the currency to complete a Generation 1 legendary from scratch. And if you have a legendary starter kit, however, from buying like the most recent expansion, you get it from the Wizard's Vault, this currency can be ignored as the gift that requires you to do dungeons is given to you for free. Generation 2 legendaries, however, they will require Heart of Thorns map currencies, and a few of them actually have like pretty in-depth story collections associated with them, like Astralaria, Nevermore, Hope. They all have this like little side story associated with them, and they're really cool, so I definitely recommend them. Generation 3 legendaries, they require End of Dragons map currencies, and these legendaries also have variant looks that you can choose to go for after you complete the legendary, and those will take you all across Tyria, and they're also really cool. For solo players, legendary weapon collections are my personal favorite end game goal, and in my opinion, working towards legendaries in between group content engagement is the best way to spend your time in game. Now, there are some legendaries that require group content. However, if you are working towards those legendaries or you just want to enjoy some cooperative gaming, there are a few places in Guild Wars 2 that you can enjoy with friends. So let's talk about group content. First up, Fractals of the Mist. You can group up with people you know. You can use quick play to dip your feet into it with randoms at like an extremely low difficulty level, or you can just work through them with randoms in whatever tier that you choose or whatever tier you're at. They do get progressively harder, and as you go through these fractals, you'll kind of learn the maps alongside with learning how kind of group content works. Fractals do require ascended equipment, so if you don't have that on your chosen character, that should be your end game goal before kind of engaging with fractals. You don't need it up front, but you will need it pretty quickly into your fractal journey. I think by the time you hit scale 25, you kind of need ascended equipment. You can get some pieces from the Wizard's Vault, but you can speed things along. There's a lot of places you can get ascended equipment in Guild Wars 2. But fractals is my recommended entry point into end game group content, because by the time you get to tier 4 and you're at scale 75 to 100, you will have a pretty firm understanding of your build and how it works in Guild Wars 2. Following fractals, you have raid wings and raid encounters. These two content types vary greatly in difficulty. While some of them are completely entry level, some of them are the hardest content in the game. The normal difficulty modes for almost all raid encounters and wings are 100% approachable, assuming you have a group of people who are playing to win. There are a lot of different ways to complete the fights, and there really is no wrong way to do it. So if you and your friends want to go in with fully celestial gear, highly defensive gear, or group compositions, as long as you engage with the fight mechanics themselves, you will likely be able to succeed. There are a lot of other strategies that make these encounters quicker, safer, or different, so you don't necessarily need to follow a guide and only do it that way. Think about what you guys need as a friend group, as a party. Come up with different classes or different strategies to solve the problems that these raid encounters face. So if it works, there is no wrong way to do it. Now, this leads me to my final suggestion before we get into some honorable mentions, which is make alternate characters or get alternate builds geared properly. At 1000 hours, it's highly unlikely that you are full legendary, so you will likely have some lag between making a new character and fully gearing them. If you primarily play one class or one build, a good thing to do is to find an alternative playstyle that you can learn and bring to different groups. So if you play support, you can learn a DPS. If you play DPS, you can learn a support, or worst case, create a different character entirely and learn some new builds on them. By having multiple characters with multiple builds available, it will make it far easier just to hot join different groups, and you will be able to engage with the community in all different content types. I know that the map completion and waypoints can be monotonous at times. However, alternative classes is one of the best ways to get replay value out of Guild Wars 2. Now, my honorable mentions. What would a Guild Wars video be without mentioning World versus World? If you are a solo player and you are following the legendary journeys, you will be required to enter World versus World. However, there are large World versus World communities that exist that play at different times. There are dueling communities for 1v1s. However, I highly recommend you get some proper gear and a build setup. Otherwise, you will likely just get rolled constantly in WW2. Alternatively, you have structured PvP, and that is just kind of given to you. You can just jump in at any time, and you can sink significant amounts of hours in structured PvP as well. So if you want legendary armor and grinding rifts in Soto or raiding in PvE doesn't sound like your thing, you can get legendary armor, backpacks, amulets, trinkets, and accessories in structured PvP and world versus world. So if PvP is more your jam, or you just kind of want that like it's always available content type, maybe the PvP side of the house is for you. There really is no wrong way to play the game, and by devoting a little bit of your playtime to each thing each week, you will find yourself with plenty of unique things to do while not sacrificing account value. Maybe each day you try to do your fractal dailies before you focus on your weekly Wizards Vault, and then the next time you log in you might do your fractals and then try to do some raid clears. Or maybe the next day you just log in and you run world versus world with a Zerg that you met up with, and then maybe the next day you don't have to do any of that stuff and you focus on getting materials for your legendary by running like an End of Dragons meta train. This is realistically what the end game of Guild Wars 2 looks like for players that have stuck with the game. Of course, we do have people who min-max and open all of the chests, farm their home instance, do their daily, do their fractals, grind all the metas, and log out day after day. However, you absolutely do not have to play like that to get value and progress out of this game. It is horizontal, so on an individual basis, you at 1,000 hours played have the ability to have a class and build that is just as good or even better than somebody with 10 times that playtime. So with that, if you thought of any suggestions, you can leave them in the comments down below. What do you think are good things to focus on for players who are entering the end game or who are at the end game and are kind of looking for that next thing? I want to thank you for watching. A big thanks to all my subscribers, which is all of you now because you hit subscribe at the start of the video, right? A big shout out to all of my members who support the channel directly, and I am an ArenaNet partner, so if you're missing any of the content, you can use my referral link in the description below to support my channel by buying the expansions with no extra cost to you. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.